Good morning and welcome to Coffee Conversations from Roofers Coffee Shop. My name is Heidi Ellsworth and we are here today celebrating Veterans Day. So before I say anything else, I just want to say thank you to all of the veterans out there who protect our country, who serve, who give us so much of our freedom, all of our freedom. And we are just honored today to be able to honor all the veterans who not just in roofing, but everywhere. So thank you so much. And Coffee Conversations, you know, we like to do things a little bit different, as you all know. In fact, before we get too far into it, I want to also do a shout out to Midwest Roofing Contractors Association, who just awarded Coffee Conversations the Innovation Award yesterday at their show. So there's a bunch of folks still at the MRCA show. You guys are awesome. It's a great show if you want to get on, see what they're doing. There's so much going on there. And so this Coffee Conversations, we're bringing together a group of ladies, women, two amazing veterans who are now in roofing and doing amazing roofing careers. We want to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about how this whole initiative, reaching out, and the future of it is going. So let's get started. Before we go too far, I want to thank our sponsor, ABC Supply. ABC Supply has been amazing. They, and we'll talk about this a little bit at the end, but they support Home for Our Troops. They are very strong on hiring and supporting veterans. And they are also a great supporter of obviously the roofing industry and Roofers Coffee Shop. So ABC Supply, thank you so much for sponsoring this very special edition of Coffee Conversations. So I would like to start out with introducing our panelists. I am really, really excited about this group today, and I think you all are going to be just blown away. Remember, this is being recorded and it will be available on demand afterwards, so be sure to share all this great information we talk about today. Also, this is a Q&A. We want your questions. We want to have interaction, so please use the chat. If you like something you hear, if you want to ask a question, if you just want to make a comment, we really want that engagement. So I'd like to start out with introducing our first guest, Elizabeth Evans, who is the owner of E2 Roofing out of Nashville, Tennessee. Elizabeth, I am so excited for you to be here. You are currently in the National Guard. You're a colonel. You have just had such a distinguished career. Can you please share with everybody an introduction about you and your story?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me, Heidi. This is going to be a great conversation. You know, my company actually, we take Veterans Day as a holiday. A lot of my employees are veterans, and so I want them to have this special day that their family and friends get to celebrate them. But they all said, "Oh, you're going to be on this podcast. We're signing in. This is going to be so cool." So hopefully shout out to the E2 team in Jacksonville and here in Nashville. Thanks for being with us. But short story on me. I was recruited by West Point to play tennis. And so once I figured out that West Point was the Army, I went there for a visit and fell in love with the tradition. And, you know, always being an athletic person, it seemed very exciting. And along the way, fell in love with the Army. And so 21 years later, after about 9 years active duty and the balance in the National Guard, I am a colonel. I command Camp Landing Joint Training Center in Stark, Florida. So I split time between Nashville and Florida, have companies, locations in both areas. And about 4 years ago, about 4.5 years ago, Hurricane Irma hit the Florida Keys, and I led the recovery efforts for that with the National Guard. And just to see the devastation in the Keys, it really inspired me to say, hey, instead of working for other construction companies, why not start something of my own where I can employ veterans and serve people in their time of need? And that's where E2 Roofing and Elizabeth Evans Custom Homes came to be. And so we branched into Nashville, Tennessee about 6 months ago. My general manager in each location is a veteran, and about 50% of my employees are veterans. And so we're really excited to serve the community and help people restore their home after significant weather events.
Elizabeth, that just kind of gives me chills. Wow. Thank you.
Amazing.
That is so, yeah. So, I mean, we've been talking about this and I still am just like, that is so cool. I'm really excited for you to share more of this, because I know there are tons of contractors and companies out there who are like, we want to do that. We want to do that. So this is going to be a big part of this conversation today, is how can you bring more veterans into your business? How
Sure.
can we get more veterans into roofing? So our next guest is Angelica Breger, and she is a senior estimator with Young Construction out of Iowa. She has been in the National Guard for 15 years. Angelica, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself. Tell us your story.
Like you said, I've been in the National Guard now for about 15 years. I've been very fortunate within my military career. I work in logistics, so I've started off in a maintenance unit, and I was there for a couple of years, and then I went to a trucking unit for transportation, and then I kind of dabble a little bit with the instructor world in the military at the schoolhouse here in Camp Dodge, and shortly after that, I went on a deployment with the aviation unit, and I did a tour in Iraq with them, and there is just not enough to be said as far as what a soldier can bring to the roofing industry. It's just kind of instilled with us to have that teamwork and also have that leadership skills as well.
Wow. And a little bit about where you're at, what you're doing now.
So I'm with Young Construction. I've been here for about 2 years. I started off as the business development manager and did the marketing. And then the opportunity came to grow within the company to be an estimator. So I work with the homeowners to help them process their claims with their insurance, as far as being able to make sure that they're getting the coverage that they need.
Very cool. We're going to talk more about that too. That women in estimating, that's a barrier that we're breaking a lot. And I love that, Angelica. That's very cool. And our last guest is an RCS influencer, and Mandy McIntyre is just, as you all know out there, so inspirational. And we've worked together on National Women in Roofing. Mandy is with First Choice out of Cleveland. And Mandy, I'd like you to introduce yourself, and then I'd really like you to talk about this initiative by National Women in Roofing and the DEI committee on getting more veterans, really reaching out. Because when I saw this on Facebook, social media, of course, I was just like, oh my gosh, Mandy, you are so dang smart. I'm calling you right now. Let's find out what's happening. So tell us the story and your story.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Heidi, for putting this together. And thank you, Elizabeth and Angelica. I mean, Veterans Day is like near and dear to my heart because I come from a military family. My grandpa, dad, and my brother are all vets. So this is a big day for me. But just my story in roofing, I've been with First Choice Roofing for 8 years now. I'm the operations officer here. I started just answering the phones and scheduling estimates, doing customer service, and that moved into project management and then production management, service manager. And today I'm involved with a little bit of everything here at our company. And I have fallen in love with the roofing industry and never intended to do so, but I really did. And honestly, I think National Women in Roofing had a lot to do with that. Just meeting different women in the industry has really, fueled my passion for this industry and for my career. And then with National Women in Roofing, with the DEI committee, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, we just really want to get the word out that, there's diversity within diversity. So within, the women in our industry, there's veterans, there's Black women, there's Hispanic women. So we've been really trying to focus on, who has been underrepresented or underconsidered to have that recognition that they deserve. So this month with Veterans Day, I should say the committee was like women veterans in roofing. where are they? How do we attract them? How do we know who they are? So I put the Facebook post out there, and Elizabeth and Angelica answered, and it's such an honor to have them here today, and to be involved with spreading that word of acknowledging female veterans, especially in the roofing industry.
You know, I think as we, I want to bring up these pictures because they're just great pictures that you guys sent over to us. And what we found since the very beginning of National Women in Roofing is once we reach out, once we say, hey, we care, we want everybody, ultra inclusiveness, it does things that we've been, some people don't know. Yeah, I served, or I did this, or I did that, or this is my family heritage. It's really made a huge difference. And I would love to talk a little bit about that. And Elizabeth, maybe start with you. Just, I know you talked to us about how you got into roofing. What have you seen in the roofing industry that is really, I mean, kind of fits with veterans? I mean, with 50% of your team as veterans, how do you see that overall connection?
You know, it's interesting because we do custom homes, we do renovations, and then the roofing division is the largest for our company. And you think about construction, and it is a natural progression from the military because you're following a process. You know, you're developing a standard operating procedure. You have things that come in sequence. You're leading a team. You're motivating people to do things that they wouldn't otherwise do if you weren't influencing them to do so. And so the more that you can systemize your business or your process, veterans are extremely attracted to that because they like order. They like, following rules and following guidelines. And the great thing for our customers is when we have veterans assigned to a project, they show up on time. They're clean, they're orderly, they're respectful. You know, yes, we're in the South and we say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am to everyone, but a veteran does that no matter where they come from. And so it's just that extra touch. And it's also a connection point for us because there's so many of our homeowners that either serve themselves or have a relative that served. So it's immediately that connection point that they're, connecting with you. And it gives a level of trust to the homeowner. I have a veteran, they innately respect, a military service member, and that's the person that's taking care of my roof. So, it just works great for us. And it's like, we have our own tribe, You're part of the E2 family, whether you served or you knew someone or you were related to someone that served, you feel that sense of service being part of our team, which is what I love so much.
Well, I have to tell you, your team just did a shout out and they said E2 Jacksonville is here and we are so proud.
They're awesome. They're awesome.
I love it. And I have to say, Angelica, you also, Kativa said, lucky to have Angelica here in North Iowa, such a powerhouse woman. So you guys are already getting some shout outs. I love it. Thank you all for being on. Keep the comments coming. We really want those. Angelica, what have you seen? I mean, making that shift and then being in the reserve for so long and working. So two things. One, the shift from the armed services into the private sector and especially roofing. How did that go? Kind of following up on what Elizabeth was talking about. And then I kind of want to go back into that balance thing too.
So going into that, I apologize. Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, no, sorry. I kind of diluted that whole thing. So how was the transition from coming out of the armed services into, like a tour of Iraq, everything, and then coming back and working in roofing and kind of getting into the roofing industry?
I've been in the roofing industry for now 2 years. Something that I really enjoyed seeing is what the military is kind of going through too, is that glass ceiling being broken for women. We're able to hold those leadership roles that at one point in time, we weren't able to do that. And also, it's breaking up.
Okay. Can you hear us now? Oh, okay. Don't worry, Angelica will be back. Megan's got her. And I didn't mention Megan Ellsworth is in the background chatting. I should have said that right up front. But so Elizabeth, one of the things that we had kind of talked about before that I think we talk about all the time, just with women overall, we balance so many different things, but it's men and women balancing families, balancing the reserves, balancing a business. How does that work for you to still be so involved? And like you said, half your time is in the reserve, working in the military reserves, and then half the time in the business. How do you balance that?
It's insane, to be honest with you. Thank God for a calendar. We have a family calendar that has the kids' events. We've got, I've got my calendar with E2. I own another company, a mitigation company. So I've got calendar items with them. And as a colonel in the National Guard, I've got a separate phone, computer system, and calendar there too. And so it is a constant balance of the calendar. But, one thing that my team does absolutely excellent is that it's because of my service in the National Guard. When a hurricane happens in Florida or a tornado in Nashville, I get activated. I'm gone. Wow. So, and that's the time when my companies are the busiest. It is insanity running a command center. They've got phones ringing, people calling, need tarps, need help. And so they're doing that. I'm on duty. I've got my military computer running, serving, the citizens in the disaster. I've got my civilian computer running E2 and saying, oh my God, are they okay? Touching base with them, making sure everything's okay with them. And, add the pandemic to that. So the pandemic happened. And on March 10th of last year, I get a phone call. You need to report tomorrow. And we don't know how long you're going to be here. And so I was gone from March 10th until June 26th of 2021 with no notice, because from March to July of 2020, I was doing COVID duty, planning the response for that and executing it. And then they said, hey, you're going to go to the Joint War College in Norfolk, Virginia for a year. Okay, gone for a year. So you talk about balance and your employees really stepping up and your family really stepping up and saying, hey, we're going to get through this. That's the thing about being a veteran and about continuing to serve. It's not you that's making the sacrifice. It's everyone around you that's constantly sacrificing to facilitate your ability to be successful.
That's amazing. And talk about leadership of really, we've been having a lot of discussions lately about owners of roofing businesses and just overall, and getting out of the way and really letting their teams go to that next level. And so not only have you allowed it, there's no choices to be able,
no.
When you're called.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of sacrifice, and, you have to have the right people on the team, right? If you don't have the right people that know, this is going to happen. I've got an owner that, she might not be here every day. I know I can call her. I know I can text her. And if there's a client that I'd really like her to meet, she'll be there, she'll make it happen. But day to day, I've got to do this on my own, or we've got to do this on our own as a team. And each one of my employees steps up and does that.
Wow. Angelica, welcome back.
I'm back. Sorry, it started glitching out, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm losing my connection, and it totally glitched out. So I apologize about that.
Well, you know what? If this would have been 2 years ago, I think everybody's so nervous 2 years ago, like, oh no, my connection. Now we're like, oh yeah, they'll be back.
It's a part of everyday life. We've been living in the Zoom world since 2020, the beginning of it. So
we know. So balance. So you are still active in the reserve. You have your job and you're estimating. How are you balancing that? Elizabeth, just how much she does is crazy.
Yeah, I balance it honestly with a ton of support and to kind of have a plan to gauge off of, because like she said, we sacrifice a lot. And my employer, I know there are times that I'll have to be gone for weeks at a time, and someone will have to fill into that place. Yeah, they might not be able, to know the ins and outs of it, but somebody has to step in. The same thing for my kids and stuff like that. I do have 2 kids at home. I'm very fortunate to have that support to be able to allow to do what I do, because if it wasn't for the support, honestly, I don't think I'd be able to serve, because of the time commitment and the sacrifices that the other people around me have to make for me to be in the service.
But, and much to what Elizabeth just said too, do you find that your support system, they are very proud that you're doing this. And I mean, how does that, because I know whether you're traveling on business or doing all these other things, family, you're always trying to juggle that, but there's kind of a whole new level with what you do.
Yes, my employer is very proud to have, we have a couple of veterans on staff to be able to support veterans as far as employing them. My kids are probably two of the most patriotic, proud kids that you will see, that they have a mom that serves in the military.
That's so cool. So what is some of your, and kind of going back, Elizabeth, what is some of your advice to other employers, much like what Angelica is talking about with her employer supporting veterans? I mean, how do you balance out? I mean, with 50%, I don't know how much of your team is still in the reserves, but with 50% of veterans, how do you balance that as a business owner?
We had one employee a while back. He's no longer with us, but he was still serving in the Guard, and so he was, and he was a jump master, and he had all these qualifications. So he was constantly getting pulled out of work. And at this point, our employees that we have are no longer serving in the Guard or reserves. But it is a tough balance for an employer. There are a lot of support systems out there. There's a great program called ESGR. It's the Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve. And so that's a national organization that helps employers navigate, the laws that protect soldiers from maintaining their employment, but also provides employers resources. And they also do great awards each year. They have a Patriot Award that they hand out to employers that are strong supporters of veterans. And they also help employers navigate the tax credits that exist out there. There's a significant tax credit if you hire a military veteran right out of the service, and so they help kind of navigate those things. So there are great resources out there. It's just helping that employer that may not be familiar with understand how to navigate that and where to find the support to be able to employ more veterans.
Okay. Angelica, you were nodding. Does Young Construction use the ESGR?
Well, the ESGR program is there for the soldiers to kind of help protect them and keep them knowledgeable in regards to, like whenever you are gone, like say if I was to go on my deployment and come back and I wanted my old position back, they're there for that guidance. For me to be able to bring to my employer saying, hey, these laws are in place to protect me from losing that position. And it's also there to educate the employer themselves as far as how to have a soldier that is still, active, what sort of rules and guidelines that they have to abide by, because they do have to make the sacrifices, and the company does suffer a little bit, but they're proud to have a veteran that's out there serving for our country.
Yeah. That's so cool. So go ahead. Yeah.
Heidi, I'll just add to that. So I, started off earlier saying that I command Camp Landing Joint Training Center down in Florida, which is a 76,000 acre base. So it's kind of like being a mayor of a city. And one of the neat things that we do with ESGR is once a quarter, we reach out to the employers of Florida Guardsmen and invite them to Camp Landing for a day. We put them in a helicopter, give them an aerial tour of the base. We take them out to a firing range. We let them climb on the obstacle course. And so it gives them an idea of what their guardsman goes through on a weekend or when they're away at training. And that's just one way we constantly try and connect our employers that mean so much to our guardsmen. And allow them to see what they're doing when they're gone.
What kind of feedback do you get from those employers as they come in and kind of go through that? What do they say? And how, does it really get them motivated to do even more?
It's kind of mind blowing for them, because they're like, hold on a second, John Smith leaves work on Friday afternoon. He reports to his unit. They drive to Camp Landing. They do all this training. He finishes up Sunday night and comes home. And then he's in my office Monday morning, standing around the water cooler. How was your weekend? What'd you get into? And he's like, oh, I was rappelling out of a helicopter all weekend. How was yours? And so they're significantly impressed with the time commitment and the sacrifice that their soldier makes, and they're quite proud of their soldier service when they get to see those events.
Wow. And so that's one of my questions. And I've heard this a lot that, in fact, I was just talking to a couple of veterans yesterday at the Midwest show, and they're like, there is a disconnect between when as people are transitioning out of the military and trying to find jobs. And, here we are in the roofing industry and we're like, we can't find any labor. We can't find skilled labor. And as you said, Elizabeth, this is perfect. Already so much trained with leadership and discipline and all of that. Where are we missing that connection of getting in front of folks who are either leaving or going to be coming out and then in reserves? How do we connect the industry to that better?
I have a couple ideas. We absolutely advertise that we are veteran owned and operated. So when we do job postings on Indeed or through our social media, we say, if you're a veteran, we'd love to have you. This is a veteran organization. Now, if you're not a veteran, that's okay too. But sometimes veterans are drawn to civilian life where the people look, act, talk like them, right? Because that camaraderie, that group, is the one thing that people miss so much when they leave the military. They're not familiar with civilian life. So that's been helpful for us. There's also, because both Jacksonville and Nashville are a vicinity of military bases, every military base has job fairs for transitioning soldiers. And, there's different people you can connect with there, career counselors, because whenever someone leaves the military, they go through a transition assistance program where they help them write a resume, they help them connect them with resources, et cetera. And so if you can get in front of those career counselors and say, hey, here's who I am, here's my company, we'd love to, open a booth at your next career fair or whatever. Those are just little things that you can do. And there's military bases all around the country.
Okay. Mandy, it sounds like National Women in Roofing may need to have a booth at some of these.
Yes, I love that idea.
And talk up about the roofing and what we can do. What as you're looking from, Mandy, I kind of want to bring back that part of it too. So as you're looking from a DEI, but just more overall, when one of our big goals is recruitment of women into roofing. What are some of the things that you're hearing and that you're wanting, that we're hoping to be able to do to get more veterans?
Well, since my brother is a veteran, I asked him, when he got out of the service, like, how did you find, he works for the VA, but it's like, how did you find your job? Like, what do you do? What did you do? So he connected me with someone through the state with Veteran Affairs and Job and Family Services. So I would advise any contractor to check with their state programs. And like the state of Ohio, you can be registered as a veteran-friendly employer. And they have these job boards, and you can put different recruiting flyers or information out, that it's like a monthly email that gets sent out to any veteran that's looking for a job. So I would highly advise everybody to look into whatever your state offers as far as like job and family services, because I'm sure there's a Veteran Affairs program as well. So we have been starting to do that. We actually have in our office, one of our project managers is active with the reserves. So Elizabeth, how you were talking about like the weekend drills, like he'll give me his schedule, like, okay, I'm going to be gone. I'm gonna have to leave this Friday and I'll be gone this weekend. So like it's to any other contractor, who's wondering how that would work, it's seamless. You really don't miss a beat. And last summer he did have to, he was gone for a while during the pandemic. And you know what? We just all pitched in as a team and it was fine. So I don't want anyone to ever think that is a discouragement to hiring a veteran, because it's really not, or hiring someone who's active duty still. So yeah, definitely check with your state. And then just, advertise that you are a military-friendly company. You understand the challenges and you are inclusive of that.
Yeah, I keep hearing it's like, again, it's surfacing again today when we were in the meetings. They're like, please, if you're a veteran, stand up. And all these people stood up, and I was like, wow, I didn't know he was a veteran. And so I think just asking, like we've always talked about, just asking, just at least talk about it. Angelica, one of the things I'm really interested in too is, what would be some of your advice to employers out there who are looking to hire veterans in active duty? What's some of your advice to them?
Some of my advice to them would be to go actively out and seek those, because they're all spread out through the community. And honestly, being a soldier and a veteran, and I'm looking for the employee aspect of it. We're looking for a culture that is going to allow us to still have those core values as a soldier, because whenever we do go out to training, and you first enter in that basic training, you're broken down to basically nothing, and then we are instilled with the core values as far as loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity. That just carries on through you. In as far as coming over into my civilian lifestyle. So my advice to them would be go out there and hire them. They're going to probably be one of the biggest assets to your team, because we are always looking to leveling up. Because in the military, you're accountable to level up. So we're going to bring that to the table here. So yes, I'm here, but I'm also going to look at self-development and leveling up.
Wow. How did you find roofing?
I love that.
Yeah, I love that. How did you find roofing, Angelica?
So the way I found roofing is I was able to, I've always been sort of attracted to the industries where I feel comfortable, sort of like, because I've always worked in a male dominant sort of, I guess there's like one from every female, it's like a 1 to 10 ratio. So I've always felt more comfortable in a male dominant industry. So I've worked in restoration and I've worked into roofing. So that's where I kind of feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. So that's what attracted me to being more in the roofing industry.
That's cool. Wow. I'm constantly, so one of the things that we wanted to talk about too, because with a lot of the contractors, roofing companies that are on watching this right now and who will watch this in the future, I would love to hear a little bit, Elizabeth, on what are some of the things that you recommend companies do, not just for their own employees and hiring veterans, but also for the community. Like when you look out into the larger community, are there some ways that they should be looking at getting involved?
Yeah, definitely. I had a great conversation with a friend that works for a veteran organization earlier this week. It was a great week for us here in Nashville because we had a veteran homeowner. He was in Vietnam, had struggled with PTSD ever since he came back from there. And about a year and a half ago, he and his wife purchased a home, and they were looking to refinance the house because it needed a new roof. And unfortunately, it was not damage enough that the insurance company would cover, and they couldn't afford to put the new roof on themselves. And so we got involved with it and pulled in a couple other organizations, and we put on a new roof for free on Tuesday. Wow. And so it was an amazing thing to be part of. It wasn't a large roof, a modest home, but what it did for that veteran and his family was absolutely worth it. And so, E2 probably puts on, 200 to 300 roofs a year. If we can take one a year and say, let's find that most deserving person that really has fallen on hard times and help them with a free roof, then that's something I look for us to do moving forward. And so not every roofing company is in a position to be able to do that, but there are other things that you can do. And when I was talking to my friend Lyle, he said, you can volunteer with the USO. They do lunch for soldiers once a month. And so for $250, you can just bring lunch to a group of soldiers and say, hey, this is from me too. And, that's something you can do. GAF has a great program for veteran homeowners to get a rebate back on their roof. Educating your homeowners on that and navigating that process for them so they get that money back on their free roof. There's a ton of things that you can do to get involved. It's just, kind of looking out there and saying, hey, what can I do to help?
Yeah. Yeah. And we on Rufus Coffee Shop, we have our Caught Doing Good. And I have to tell you, so many of those Caught Doing Good stories are about roofing companies helping veterans and helping, especially, you know, just like what you did this week. So we need that story. We want to run it. So
okay.
We'll
Yes.
get it from you.
I talked to my marketing team last night and approved the press release. So I think it's coming out today. I'm hopeful it's on the TV stations here in Nashville.
Perfect. Send it our way. We'll get it out there.
Great news story.
I love it. Angelica, what are you seeing with young and just overall in your community for veterans?
We also do the veterans roof rescue. This year was our first year doing it. It was a huge success. We were able to help a local veteran here. And that was something that our company really enjoyed doing, is going out and seeking that.
Yeah. I tell you, it's so good for the company culture overall. When you do like what you're talking about, when you're doing those kind of things, it just builds. It's not, it's a beautiful thing for the community, but it's also a beautiful thing for employees to be able to be a part of that.
It is. And then they get to hear other veterans' stories, and it's very humbling.
And I want to encourage everybody, if you have questions, please put them in, because I can see a lot of you out there. This is your chance. If you're looking to try to level up your game at your roofing company, with really including veterans, these are the ladies to ask those kind of questions. I do have, and I'm kind of switching gears here. I have so many questions going in my head. I feel a little bit like all over the place, but one of the things that I hear from a lot of different people is there is a transition between coming out of the military and going to work and working in the private sector, where there's not as much discipline or possibly organization or process. Elizabeth, maybe you can start with that. How can, if you, as some of our roofing companies are hiring veterans, that maybe they need to have some things top of mind that might be a little challenging at first once they get going?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I met with a homeowner here in Nashville a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, and she was really intrigued by our story, you know, that we're veteran-owned, woman-owned, veteran employees, et cetera. And she said, now, how do you deal with your veteran employees since they all have PTSD? And I was like, that's a misnomer, right?
Yeah.
Like we came out of, you know, over a decade of, almost 2 decades of conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan, and all of us have been there, you know, and you know, it's something to be sensitive to. You don't know who's struggling with something underneath the surface, right? But it's also, you don't make the assumption that everyone is struggling with it, right? So there's different things that a veteran misses, and most of it is that connection, that camaraderie, and that things are organized. So in the military, if I tell somebody to be someplace at 10 a.m., they're going to be there at 9:50, right? If you're dealing with a subcontractor or a supplier or a homeowner, and you say, hey, I'm going to be there at 10, and they show up at 9:50, and subcontractor doesn't show up, supplier is late, homeowner forgot that they had an appointment, the veteran gets very frustrated. Like, I do this, why don't you? And so that's something I'm working with my general manager here in Nashville on. So he came out after 26 years of service in the active Army. Wow. He's a very decorated command sergeant major, ranger, all the HFOT things. And it is taking him a transition period to realize that civilians are not soldiers. But he's transitioning through it. And so I'm working with him on it. But that's something that I would say to other employers, especially if the only thing the veteran has known is active duty service, and they're coming to you right after that, then as much as you can focus that person on being process oriented and set expectations high for them, and show them that if they exceed those expectations, there's an opportunity to move up. They'll challenge themselves, and they will impress you more than you expect.
Wow. And I would think, because you understand, and as the employer, as you're able to work through this, but for companies that maybe do not understand that at the highest leadership levels, that can be really challenging.
Absolutely. But that's where you have employees like Angelica and other veterans on your staff that tap into that resource. You know, hey, we're hiring another veteran, you know, whether it's a mentorship program, you're partnering up, hey, this is your sponsor for the first 6 months that you're with the company. You know, that's somebody that's already going to talk their language, that understands, you know, their mindset, where they're coming from, that could be a resource. And much larger companies definitely do that. You know, you look at Citibank or, you know, USAA or, you know, some of these larger companies, they all have micro networks of veterans. So even for a small business, like I consider us a small business, having that network or those people that you can tap into and partner up with is going to help that veteran transition that much quicker.
That is great advice. And I do want to just read one thing that came in from Lynn Johnston out of Florida also. I don't know if you know her, Elizabeth, but she says, wow, what a great lady Elizabeth is. To handle all that is remarkable. So this was from earlier on when you're talking about all the different things that you're working on. Lynn is an amazing lady too. She was on Coffee Conversations a while ago. So thank you, Lynn, for sending that. We also had, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm sure Lynn very distinctly remembers Hurricane Irma as well.
Yeah.
it hit all of Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. We were down there after that and saw it. It blew my mind. It was crazy. Before we get off this topic, I do want to go, Angelica, kind of the same thing. That transition from the military into private sector and that mentorship. I love that. Such a great thing. Have you been seeing that with first your transition back into civilian and also helping others?
Well, I kind of have to balance that because I do still serve and I am working. But everybody here knows that I like a system. And it helps me. It grooves. It makes me feel good to know that there's something in place to kind of have accountability.
Did you have that conversation with your with the management and different folks kind of talking through that?
Yes, and if there isn't a system, I like to try to have something in place to kind of put my mind at ease to know that it's gonna get taken care of in a timely manner.
Yeah. I love that.
I mean, such a good point, Angelica, because I hired a new general manager in Jacksonville several months back, and he came in, he's a Navy veteran, and he's like, all right, my first task is I am going to have written SOPs for everything, process maps. So every month I'm getting a new process map that he's mapping out because he wants to make sure that as we continue to grow and expand, everybody has a process to follow. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I love to see. And I think Angelica probably has the best macros anyone's ever seen in Xactimate, wanting to have the best system in place.
Yeah, when I came in as a business development manager here, that role wasn't here, but you kind of build your own SOP so that when the next person comes in, they can fill in that spot. It's not like there's a ton of training behind it, because there is that standing operating procedure that's kind of built there for the foundation for someone else to follow and fill in.
And
Absolutely.
To Elizabeth's point earlier on, then that puts you in a position to move up.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes. You're leveling up. You're always looking at that next level.
Yeah. And, we talk a lot about that in culture. Everybody, people will say, oh, it's all about the pay or it's all about the benefits. But what I'm hearing both of you saying is, for someone who's been in the military and now is there, it's also about the challenge, the opportunity for growth to go to that next level. That's a huge thing that employers should be talking about when they're recruiting and in retention.
Absolutely. And, any company is going to expand over time, right? And I always want to expand from my internal nucleus. I've got my core group of people. Let's educate them, empower them, provide them the training that they need, the exposure that they need, so they move up, and then we're filling with new people underneath them. I kind of made it a charge to myself this year. I said, okay, last year we invested in brand new vehicles, right? And get them wrapped and make them look good. And people are driving around town. I said, this year my investment's going to be in my people. What training can I bring to them? Because I have some of my managers that are like, should I go get my master's degree? Should I get my MBA? How am I going to balance that, while working full time and having young kids at home? And so I partnered with an organization called Crestcom, which is a leadership and management development company. And so now my senior leadership is going through it's a 12-month-long program where they're target focused on, how do you multitask? How do you mentor and develop employees? All of these things, where they do a roundtable once a month with other business leadership, and then they do private coaching sessions. And I'm like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to invest in our people so that we can grow this organization from within.
That is cool. And Angelica, do you find that same thing? Is just like the continuing education, constantly finding
Yeah.
those things?
Yep, self-development. I'm like, feed me, feed me, feed me training. Like if there's a big training come up, I want to learn, I want to know more. I want to, be good at what I do and also be looking at my future of where can I grow and how am I going to go to the next level.
So I hope everyone is hearing this. This is stuff that doesn't always get, I don't think it gets messaged well. And this is excellent. Mandy, this is something too to think about, right?
Oh my
it.
gosh. I'm like, I'm like, I'm like jumping up and down inside listening to Angelica and Elizabeth talk, because hearing the word like SOP, company culture, core values, like we have those here at First Choice Roofing. I mean, we're very SOP centric. We have our core values. We try to make a very strong company culture. And I think like that is one of the biggest takeaways any contractor can get from this webinar, is how important that is to your overall operations. And so I think they're clearly demonstrating that the more, if you have a veteran in your company, how much better your company is going to operate.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just like, yes, yes, yes to everything they say. I mean, really, I hope everyone's taking notes, because it's great advice that every company should be having these procedures.
Yes. I'm telling you right now, we need these ladies at National Women in Roofing Day.
Yes.
So I'm already
Yes.
getting ready to send the note out. So be careful, you two. You're gonna get. Okay, we have some questions. I don't want to miss them here. So, is there one of the things they just talked about? One of the questions was: is there any way commercial roofing could assist in these volunteer efforts? So, when they're trying to find veterans, if they're doing mostly commercial, what are some of your thoughts on that? Elizabeth, maybe start with you.
Yeah, I think it's probably on the commercial side, because the different government organizations are constrained by the FAR, which is the Federal Acquisition Regulation. So any of that commercial work is going to have to be, the government can't accept things for free, right? So it has to be bid out. But they need quality contractors that bid on their work, because it's all low bid. So a lot of times when the military is looking to, put a new roof on a facility, it goes to the lowest bidder, which isn't necessarily the highest quality. So getting your registration done with SAM, the System for Award Management, it's a challenging process, but getting it done so that you can bid on those commercial opportunities for the military, you're helping, even though it's not a donation. But then there's certain things that you can do once you're already there on base. You can do those things like volunteering with the USO and providing lunch for soldiers and, getting engaged in that system. But that really on the commercial side, it would be what can you do within the community to support veterans that might not be putting a new roof on someone's home, but it's you contributing towards veterans within the community.
And, I would also recommend to look to some of your residential partners, some of the residential roofing contractors in that same community, and reach out to them and say, hey, we want to help you. We can send people over to help or to get involved, because sometimes you find that network and get, even across the board in the associations, but even in the councils, look out to your National Women in Roofing councils, because they may be able to get you involved that way too. So
absolutely.
So I just want to read a couple of these because they're just so nice. So Elizabeth had to leave. This is another Elizabeth, but she said, this was a great webinar. Have to hop off for a client meeting, but I am so thankful for all of your service and example. All you ladies have a great day. So it's just awesome. And then Lynn Johnston came back and said, yes, I do remember Irma, and even all the way back to Andrew. So
yeah,
I actually remember Andrew also. Lots of love and thanks from the Memphis area. And then another question that just came in is, will you share a list of veteran resources for 1, recruiting and 2, volunteer opportunities? So maybe that is something we can work with Angelica and Elizabeth and Mandy. We can all work on maybe putting something together, and we can get that on the site with resources that you recommend. Megan's been putting a lot of them out in the chat, but we can definitely work on that.
Absolutely. And just to tie to that, so every state has a National Guard, right? Angelica,
Yep.
in Iowa, myself in Florida, and each National Guard has people on staff at the headquarters that specifically work with employers and facilitate job boards and postings for actively serving guardsmen. So that's another resource we can add as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Because I mean, everyone's looking for skilled labor, and just everything you've said today shows this is the ultimate resource for the roofing industry.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And generally somebody that's serving is fit. And like we talked about before the show today, generally not scared of heights, because the military will cure you of that very quickly during basic training.
Right.
So you got to share that story. Share that story.
Oh gosh, it's so embarrassing. So I show up at West Point in our freshman year. You're called a plebe, and you had to take swimming class, which for me, I grew up a swimmer, so that was no issue. But then one day they said, okay, well, we're going to go up to the 10-meter board, the high dive. You're going to have all your military gear on, and you have to jump off, land in the water, hopefully, and swim to the other side with all your military gear on. And I am shaking like a leaf. And I was like, there is no way that I am going to go home, because I got kicked out of West Point because I couldn't jump off the diving board. And so I conquered the fear right there and pushed through that. But there's definitely been some times at some heights that I've been a little bit shaky, but it's certainly helped me out with my roofing career that's not an issue anymore.
Yeah. Well, if you're rappelling out of helicopters too, that probably helps a little bit.
Yeah, that helps.
Angelica, what kind of along that same lines, what are some of the things that you think you learned in the military? I know we talked about SOPs and stuff, but like scared of heights, or, you know, the things that are kind of in roofing that scare a lot of people. What are some of the things that kind of made it just a natural for you?
The heights thing, that is something that you definitely get over. You know, rappelling towers, you're up in Chinooks, things like that. So that's definitely not, well, I can't speak for every veteran, but it's something that you learn to overcome. You know, those little fears, you learn to overcome those things. Like how Elizabeth was saying, you know, you're not gonna go home, or you're not gonna quit this over, you know, just this one thing. So you quickly learn to overcome any sort of little fear to stop you from doing something.
Which, you know, I'll kind of add to that, Angelica. You know, sometimes, you know, Florida is hot, right? So you think about roofing in Florida in the summertime, and I've been up on a roof, and, you know, guys are tired and this and that. I'm like, it's not Baghdad. It's not that hot. You know, it's hot, but it's not Baghdad.
You don't know 130-degree hot.
Yeah, you don't know heat. You're fine. Drink more water.
Yeah, drink water. You'll be fine. You're fine.
Okay, I think this is my favorite part so far. It does put a real sense of reality around everything, you know?
Right.
Wow. Okay, we're coming up to the end. And if you have any questions, please get them out there. We'll be sharing all this information. But I'd like to kind of wrap this up with, and I'm gonna start with you, Angelica. Just like, what are some of the top takeaways that you would share with other roofing companies on, one, recruiting, and two, working with veterans? What are some of the things that you would, just to kind of wrap it up, say to them?
As far as recruiting, every major city usually has an armory. Not even major. There's a local armory. Reach out to the readiness NCOs there and let them know that you're hiring and actively seeking veterans. They'd be more than happy to put it out to their troops that, hey, we have a veteran supporting company here that is looking to hire a veteran. So that would be huge. A huge step for them to take is to reach out to their local armories.
Perfect. And, you know, have you, besides obviously the two of you meeting through this, how many other women veterans have you talked to who are in roofing?
Honestly, this would be the first one, because I haven't gone out and, you know, and asked, and the other women that I have met are at the conferences and stuff. And just recently, within this last year, I've been able to actually go to conferences, since now it's safer for us to go out and see people.
Yeah. Well,
but I'm very honored to meet you, Elizabeth. You seem like an amazing leader. Your troops are very lucky to have you as a leader, and also your employees.
Oh, thank you so much. The feeling's mutual. If your employer wasn't on, I'd tell you, hey, Florida and Nashville are a great place to live. We need to talk. But it sounds like you're at a great company, so I'm not going to say that.
They're like, oh no. Elizabeth, what's some of your same thing? First, I want to ask, do you know any other? Because I saw you kind of going, no, not really. Other women veterans in roofing?
No, I don't. I read a statistic once from the National Association of Home Builders, and it said 5% of licensed contractors nationwide are women, right? And so then if you peel that onion back even further, and how many are in the roofing industry, in the city of Jacksonville, there's only one other woman roofer that I know. And Jacksonville has 1 million people that live there. I don't know another woman roofer in Nashville. So the demographic is very, very small, and it's a great network though for us to tap into, not just veteran women in roofing, but women in roofing. And so I'm super excited to be part of this. But you asked, how does an employer maybe recruit veterans, et cetera? I would emphasize the values of your company, because if you have values that are similar to the military values that Angelica listed off before, that's going to resonate with a veteran. It's not about the money. It's, money's part of it. You have to make a living and provide for your family, but you want to be part of an organization that's similar to your values. And innately, anyone that serves in our military, it's a career of service. And what is roofing and construction, especially residential? It's a career of service. We are providing a service to a homeowner. And so, drawing those parallels is what is going to resonate with a veteran that says, yeah, I want to do this and not do Amazon. Not that Amazon's a bad company, right? Great, but just in parallel, you're providing a service. And so I think that would be very helpful for an employer.
I think that's amazing. I hope everybody's taking notes, as Mandy said. Mandy, I just want to know, Jennifer Stone just came on, our past chair of National Women Roofing, and she said, thank you, ladies. This sparks ideas for us all to find additional support opportunities. You're all representing powerfully. So again, another thank you. I'm hoping that both of you will come to National Women in Roofing Day, and it's going to be in New Orleans.
Yes, please.
And yes.
Hey, there's no argument there. My sister lives in New Orleans, so always an excuse to go spend time with her. I'm all in.
And I'm going to put out there to Michelle and Renee and Jennifer and Anna and Jennifer, all the ladies on that executive team and who's working on National Women Roofing Day. These two ladies right here, we need to have them speak and share their stories in New Orleans. Hopefully, I'll probably be in trouble now, but I'm always in trouble, so it's all right. And then I just want to say, Leanne Slattery, also, great webinar. Thanks for your service, as well as for any other veterans attending. And finally, Beth said, this is awesome. Thank you for your service. Thank you for providing such great information. It's great to connect with women in the roofing industry and women veterans. So, and they're just flying in right now saying, thank you for your service. And thank you for being here today. I know you've inspired me. Mandy, do you feel the same?
I'm jacked right now. I can tell you that. Like, seriously, I have so many ideas. Like, this has been awesome. And I think it's really, I'm hoping it inspires everyone to, we have to do more to support and to recruit and to acknowledge and honor, especially women veterans. I think a lot of people automatically assume, you picture the guy in the uniform with his gun, and it's like, no, times are different now. There are plenty of women veterans that need the recognition they deserve. So thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Heidi, if I could just add one thing, you started the conversation today with Homes for Our Troops. Yes. And I was fortunate enough to build a home for a service member through Homes for Our Troops 2 years ago in Jacksonville. And it is an outstanding organization. I would love to build another home for another troop, whether that's Nashville or Jacksonville. But if you're a roofer out there, connect with that organization. They'll connect you with who the builder is in your area. That's a great way to give back as well.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, because this is an organization that ABC Supply supports huge. And the fact that you were involved within that, and I didn't even know that, because this was one of the things that I was trying to look for, people who were involved with Homes for Our Troops. So again, another great resource to get involved. Thank you all, ladies. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being here and inspiring us so much today. And for what you're giving back to the roofing industry is just incredible. So thank you. And thank you, Mandy, for bringing us all together.
I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
all of your guys' support. It's, supporting all of our troops and also the opportunity that you provided here today.
It's awesome. Awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And Angelica, it's great to meet you. I hope we stay connected.
Yes, let's connect after this, ma'am.
All right.
Oh, once we connect, you guys, you're in trouble because I'm going to be reaching out to you all the time too. And so is Mandy. So we're together now.
All
Sorry,
good.
you're stuck with us now.
I love it. I love it.
Love it.
Well, I want to thank everybody again, and I want to thank ABC Supply. I mean, what a great episode to sponsor, and they are so committed to Homes for Our Troops. So again, Elizabeth knows about that. So if you have questions, just keep them coming to us. We'll connect everybody through there. And I do want to say we're just on this train of feeling good on Coffee Conversations, because on December 2nd, Trent Contney is going to be on the show. He is matching foundations in the roofing industry again for a day of giving in roofing. And so we're going to have representatives from Western states, from Florida, from Chicago, and from the Roofing Alliance talking about what foundations are doing in roofing to help to grow the professionalism, to get more people involved, to just give back. And Trent Contney, if you all don't know him, Elizabeth, Trent's in Tampa, you right in kind of your area, I guess, around there. So great thing. Please join us December 2nd. And I'm going to say, bring your wallet, because Trent's going to be matching every dollar that's given that day, which is not every dollar, up to a certain limit, but it's going to be great. So join us on December 2nd. And again, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. This has been so amazing. And I want to thank all of you for watching. Coffee Conversations is here for you. It's here for the industry so that we continue to have these conversations and bring new things out. And we will see you in a couple of weeks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.